Hello and a big welcome to the channel. I'm Captain Wilson and this is the Flawless 195 World Tour. And I just wanted to do a little bit of an update on where we are and a little review of what we've done so far, and also a little bit of a reason as to why we're getting 2-week gap between the flights and how I'm looking to try and tackle that going forward. It's just going to be a quick little update. I'm not don't want to drag it on too long. But yeah, if you are new to the channel, you've seen a couple of flights. This is the route. You might not have seen the route explainer video, so this is just quickly going to go over it. So we started in Manchester. And then the first sort of leg of the world tour was Europe. So as you can see, this was the route around Europe. Obviously, the challenge, the mission is to land in every single capital city. Now, that's not always possible, but I will get as close as I can, especially in smaller countries. Maybe the only runway in that country is not in the capital. Well, we land at that runway and we call it a day. So I will always land at a suitable runway nearest to the capital of a country. And therefore, going from country to country to country, in essence, capital to capital to capital. And that is the idea with all 195 countries in the world. So we started, obviously, around Europe. And then we moved into the African leg. We also came up and did a little bit in the Middle East there, but we then got into the African leg. Now, the thing about the European and African legs of the World Tour, which have been completed without issue, no crashes as well is a big part of this World Tour. So we haven't had any crash landings or any issues. Well, we've had a few issues, but we haven't crashed. So the thing about the European and African legs is all the flights, 99% of the flights are under an hour and a half. Obviously through Europe, a lot of them are half an hour, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, all that kind of range. Once we got into Africa, all right, we had a few hour and a half, hour and 40-minute flights. In general, they were about an hour as well. So going through Europe, about an hour a flight. Going through Africa, about an hour a flight, probably, on average. Then we got into the Middle East, again, about an hour a flight, half an hour, 40 minutes, hour and 20. It's all doable. Then we get to Kazakhstan. And things start to open up a bit. So as you can see by the orange line here, I start dividing flights up because the Astana to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, is about 3.5-4 hour flight. So we split it up and we go to Russia there and there. So then we get 2 2-hour flights instead of 1 4-hour flight. Makes sense. But yeah, the general theme is now we're in Asia, now Southeast Asia, the flights are opening up and the daylight hours are the opposite of where I am in the UK. So what's happening is I'm lining myself up for a 2.5-hour flight. For example, let's say Japan to Taiwan. I've even split that up because the original route is in the, shall we call it maroon, in the pink? The original route is in the pink. And I was going to go straight from Japan to Palau. Now, in the end, I decided, all right, it's a little bit short of Japan to Taiwan. That still took, I think, over 2.5 hours. I think it's the longest flight so far. I think it might have been over 3 hours, actually, thinking about it. I think it estimated 2 hours something, but it took about 3 hours, 15 minutes. And now the problem is, if I want to do a flight during daylight hours, this is like 1 a.m. takeoff time for me. So I'm having to stay. It's basically an all-nighter. Japan to Taiwan is an all-nighter. I can't be doing that, got a full-time job, this, that, and the other. It's just stupid. So it's meaning that we're down on the ground for weeks at a time, me waiting for, right, I can stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning tonight. Let's do it. Have I got anything better to do? No, I haven't. That's this is the problem. So what I'm going to start doing where I can is splitting up the flights into smaller sections and just making progress, because this is the situation we find ourselves in right now, and why there hasn't been a flight for probably over 2 weeks. So right now I have obviously taken this orange route. The original route was, like I said, in the pink. We diverted to this orange route. We then had a problem with the plane, and I landed around here somewhere on the way from Manila to Palau. So we split this in half anyway. But this line here, it doesn't look like it's massive. That's over 2.5 hours, Manila to Palau. See, so we took a stop there. We've ended up in Palau, and I am now waiting for an evening where sunrise in Palau is like 10, 11 p.m. UK time. And we are going to go all the way over to Brunei. This is getting on for 3 hours. It's like 2 hours and 50-minute flight, right? So I'm going to have to be on all night till 3 in the morning to get any daylight hours within the sim, if you get what I mean. So what I'm going to have to do to start making progress, because it's just not happening. It's just not happening where I'm getting 3 hours where I've got nothing better to do. In other words, I need to get me sleep in, and I'm just thinking, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I can't be staying up till 3 in the morning tonight. I'll do it tomorrow. It's getting late. I forgot about it. I'll do it tomorrow. And it's not happening, and it's become it's put a halt to the world tour, because I am not getting a 3-hour window in the middle of the night going over from Palau to Brunei. It's just not. It's not in the top 10 priorities, is it? You know, priority 1 to 9 is have a sleep. But anyway, so what I'm going to do for this flight in particular, just to make progress and to get this plane off the sodding ground, is I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go to General Santos City. I think it's southern Philippines, and it's still going to be the Philippines, that I would imagine, yeah. So we're going to do a stop off there. It means that this now 3-hour flight becomes an hour and a half, perhaps. Hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes to Santos, and that's what I'll do. And it just means that I don't have to dedicate an entire all-nighter to progress the world tour. I can just go, right, all right, it's 11 p.m. now. By 12:30, it's all done and dusted. I don't have to think, oh, God, it's going to be 2:30 in the morning, and then I'm going to be up for work. So this all makes sense. And what I will do, the number of flights in the world tour has always been going up. I think it started as a 207 flight, then it went 209. Then I did an update where I added these orange lines in to do the detours. It went up to about 217, 218 flight world tour. I reckon now we're going to be looking at more like a 250 flight world tour, just for the sake of every now and then just making progress in the right direction, but not going the whole 3-hour, 4-hour hog and just going, well, I can do an hour tonight and get to this part. I can do an hour in 3 nights' time and get to it and get to the final destination. So that's going to be the idea going forward, and I'm going to do it on a case-by-case basis. So the route is going to be not as set in stone as it was, basically. But for the sake of getting this done and not having 2-3 weeks between each flight, it's a necessary, change that I need to make. So we're going to go over to about there, like I say, General Santos, about halfway, and then we'll get the other flight. Obviously, then that adds, that makes it a 220 flight world tour. You know, these things, and then we're going to have to come across here now. You know, do it. For example, right? Do it go right? Well, let's head to Rio Islands just for the sake of making progress to then go up there the next day. You know, I mean, that's not a great example because it's still going to be, you know, the flight from this island up there is probably about the same. But you get my idea. I might just be randomly splitting up flights, going, well, I'm going in the right direction for an hour. And that might be what it is going forward. Now, some of these, once we get into Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and that, these are all right. You know, these are 3/4 an hour, 3/4 an hour, hour and 20, something like that. So probably we're all right. You know, then we've got the challenge of Bhutan, Nepal, and that. Now, again, with India there, I've split that one in half. But, you know, there's flights that I can't split in half. So, for example, the Sri Lanka one, might be waiting at Colombo for a while before we can go over to Malaysia. You know, I might even try and think, well, I can make progress here by going over there, something like that. You know, I'll take it on a case-by-case basis. For example, this flight here, it might look like nothing, but that might be a 2.5-hour flight. And I might be sat there in Singapore thinking, oh, it's another all-nighter. And I might just think one day, right, well, we'll go to Jambi, you know. Sod it, we'll go to Jambi. I'm an hour in the right direction and we carry on tomorrow. That's what it's going to be, just to make some progress. Here again with this one, Jakarta, is that Indonesia, is it? Jakarta to, I think it's called Dili, the capital of Timor. Yeah, right? Again, that's going to be a 2.5-hour, 3-hour flight. Forget it. What I'll do, right, it's an hour to Surabaya. That's how we're going to do it. So the amount of flights in the world tour is going to be, you know, let's say we've got about 60 flights left, 70 flights left. Scrap that, put that in the bin. We've still got 120 flights to go. Because I feel like just making little bits of progress, even if I just do a 45-minute flight, a 1-hour flight, as long as we're going in the right direction and heading for the next destination, I'm just going to have to split these flights up where I can, basically. Yeah, so that's the idea, and that's going to keep it moving, because at the moment, me sat in Palau waiting for a 3-hour window in the middle of the night to go over to Brunei, it's just not happening. So perhaps even tonight, I can get in the plane and think, right, we're an hour and a half to Santos, more manageable bites than taking a big chunk. So that's what it's going to be going forward, and it's be a case-by-case basis of like, right, can I get all the way to the next country, or do I need to just make a stop off at this island halfway that's, you know, means that at least we're not, you know, getting 2-3 weeks between each flight. But yeah, just sort of give a bit of an update. We are about 2/3 of the way through in terms of sort of destinations, if you like, in terms of countries ticked off. We are about 2/3 of the way through, but we're probably only halfway through in terms of flights. That's the that is the, in a sentence, that's what it's about. These flights in this last third of the world tour are just too long, and they're on the wrong side of the planet. Where I can either do a load of night flights and not see a thing and risk crashing into the Himalayas, or we can split each flight up into more manageable bite-size flights, if you like. So that's what I'm going to do, because like Europe and Africa, they were all bite-sized flights. And then now we're into Asia. I'm on the ground waiting for a 3-hour window in the middle of the night to make any progress. So we're going to split flights up, and yeah, who knows how many flights this world tour is going to take, but it's going to be a lot more than the 219, 220 flight mark. We might be get towards 250. But yeah, there you go. That's your thing. And then, so basically this is where we are. We're in Palau. So we've got all this Asian leg to do. We come back round, loop back round. Then we go into the South Pacific, and looks a bit like Batman. But we're basically going island to island in the South Pacific. Now, a lot of these I won't be able to split up, and it just is what it is. But where I can, I will do. You know, where I can, you know, like I say, case by case basis. You know, we're over here at the Solomon Islands. Maybe I don't go all the way to Port Vila. Maybe I stop here. You know, we see on a case by case basis. For example, this one, Fiji to Australia, right? I was looking at stopping at Norfolk Island. maybe I split it into 4 parts. Maybe I go here, then I go here, then I go to Norfolk Island, then I go to Lord Howe Island, wherever. It might not have a runway, that actually. But you get the idea. It just means that progress is being made and miles are being clocked up, or else I'll never get this done. I'll be just grounded thinking, oh, well, the next flight's a 5-hour flight in the middle of the night, and I'll never get it done. So yeah, bite-sized flights for the final third of the world tour, and we're going to get way into the 250, 260 flight mark. Yeah, that's just how it's going to be able to make progress. But yeah, I've waffled on for a bit longer than what I was going to do. But as you can see, that is the wild and wacky route. But yeah, I was just doing a bit of things. So yeah, we do the South Pacific, and then obviously come over the Pacific Ocean. Now, that's just going to be a case of, I mean, I might even go to Hawaii. For why? Well, we went to Taiwan. We're doing Greenland. Doesn't really matter. Maybe we make a stop at Hawaii. You know, who knows? But flights are going to be split up into smaller bite-sized sections. Then we get to Central America, South America. This is going to be the most nervy part of the world tour because we're in the last sort of 10% of it, and we're getting a tiny little Daha TBM plane out in Trinidad and Tobago because landing in Suriname and Guyana is a bit of a challenge. So we have to take the smaller plane to land at these small little runway strips. So it's going to be nerve-wracking, and then we tackle the Caribbean. And then basically North America is like the final stint, really. Washington, Ottawa. And here again, even with the last few flights, might be splitting it up in ways that, you know, for example, I've got Ottawa to Iceland. I originally had that as one flight. What am I doing? What? Yeah, 6 hours. Yeah, great. What I might end up doing is going, right, well, we'll go a little bit north, stop here, a little bit north again, maybe stop here. Then we go to Greenland. Then we make it to Iceland. Then we go Faroe Islands. Then we stop in Scotland. You get the idea. I will get this world tour done. How many flights it takes is now an unknown quantity. But this world tour will be done. And for the sake of progress, these longer flights of 2 hours plus just need to be trimmed, and that's what we're going to be doing going forward. So yeah, apologies for the last couple of months of the world tour. I've probably done half a dozen flights, you know. So things have now got to a point where they've ground to a halt, and that's not good. For the sake of progression, we need to make some changes. So that's what I'm going to do going forward, and we're going to get this world tour done eventually. Join me in 2037 when we arrive back. But yeah, that is all from me for now, and the world tour continues. Thank you for bearing with me, and we will get to Brunei eventually and beyond. All right, cheers. Bye for now.